Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Buttercup Skincare podcast. My name is Nokolo Sokweba, and I am your host. I am not alone today. I have a special guest, a beautiful lady, Mmone Mofokeng. She is a public health professional and a mental health and wellness advocate. She has worked with a lot of job seekers and professionals who are burnt out from the pressure of keeping it together. Today, we will discuss all things mental well-being for professionals. Hi, Mone.
Hi,
How
Nakolo.
are you today?
Sure, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to be here. Very honored. Very honored. And, I feel like this is a special moment. Anything and everything, wellness, mental health is everything I'm passionate about. So I'm quite happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here.
Definitely.
I know we've been trying to be here, but
Yes.
thank you for finally coming.
Yay.
So before we get started, I'd like us to do a icebreaker.
Okay.
As you know, Buttercup Skincare is a skincare and a wellness brand. And we promote self-care. So I'd
Okay.
like to ask, what do you do to ensure that mentally you're okay and that you're not burnt out, be it from work or life in general?
I personally like taking time out.
Okay.
I like taking time out. I like removing myself from environments that put me in those situations where I feel extremely overwhelmed, where I feel extremely burnt out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do get overwhelmed and anxious. So when those moments come, that's when I tap into my spirituality. I'm a very spiritual person, a woman of faith. So that's when, I'll tune in my gospel, or I'll just go have a conversation with my mom because, we believers and so forth, and sometimes it's just really about spending time with the people I care about, friends, family, such things. It's the basic things because we don't have to always overthink it. It's those little things that we do.
Yeah.
Without us sounding extra, like without me saying, look, I go for a spa day. You
Yes,
understand? Sometimes
yes.
it's not always possible to do that. So it's the little things that I do that help me just, stay in tune.
Yeah, I love that because I also always, as part of our brand, I emphasize the small things,
Yes,
that get your
yes.
mind off things. And absolutely, spirituality is another one that we feed the body, but we also need to feed the soul.
So much. So it's important to have like an all-round, an all-round solution to those little burnout moments that we experience. Because look, life is a lot. Life is a lot. Hence, I say you can't always, go for those things that typically we all talk about. As I said, the spa days, there's just it's a lot. So the little things help.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to talk about your career, so you are a public health professional and you advocate for mental health and wellness. How did you get into that? Is that something growing up in high school, primary school, you've always wanted to? How did you stumble onto that?
Well, back then, I think the idea was just to find myself in a space where I could create a safe space for people to just be able to connect with me. You understand? So I think the whole, the definition behind mental health and mental wellness was obviously all grounded and surrounded around psychology, right?
Yes.
So then I first started with my humanities degree, which then later I majored in psychology and then got my postgrad in psychology. But I wasn't too sure where I want to go with it because there's so many different branches to it, So I was like, okay, let me pause it a bit, which I did. And then I went into public health. So with public health, the nice thing about it is that I wanted to also reach out on a community level, that kind of landscape. So for me, that's where now the passion really grew. So then I was able to create those spaces for community members, community engagement, be able to deal with vulnerable groups, whether it's the youth, whether it's the elderly, whether it's women. So then having psychology then allows me to then create a psychosocial support for them, a psychosocial space for them, you understand, which then eventually now went into job seekers and professionals, you understand? So I think the beginning of it all was just creating a space where I can care for others, where I can just reach out, and just create this space. So it wasn't really like, look, I want to be a psychologist, not that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so eventually then I found my calling once I stepped into public health and then I merged the two.
Yes. Okay. So you've worked with job seekers and professionals, right? And I'd just like to understand from your perspective, do you feel that workplaces and professionals themselves, they understand mental wellness, and do they prioritize mental wellness?
Overall, I think we have an idea,
Okay.
or rather, the organizations tend to have an idea. But what seems to be the problem for me is
Yes.
that it's more of something that's boxed. You
Okay.
understand? It's more of something that's put in a particular corner where now, for a certain week or a certain day, we're going to focus on mental wellness, mental well-being. And then they have EAP programs, which is like your employee assistant programs. You understand? Where they now bring in therapists, they bring in psychologists, they bring in social workers, all sorts of, different professionals to come and now talk about public health, to come in. You understand? So I
Yeah.
think they have an idea, but they're not really digging deep. They're not
Okay.
really going deeply into it. And I've seen it with the job seekers, and I've seen it with professionals, you understand? And also remember, in workspaces, it's still it's still more related to that particular organization.
Yes.
So sometimes it's not really so safe for the employee, because now they feel like, if I'm going to go there and open up about the problems that I have,
Yeah.
and open up that I'm struggling, then what if I get laid off? What if now I lose my job? What if now? So you're also very limited. So there's that trust issue that's also still there. You understand? So yes, they do have an overall understanding. Look, they create the programs, they give you time out to go and talk to somebody, but do they really understand? I think there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
There's still really, really a long way to go in terms of providing the all-rounded, all of that. But some organizations do try. I mean, a lot of people will express how maybe he or she lost somebody, and then at work they were able to now, take some time out, and then perhaps they got to see somebody at work, talk through their grief. You understand? And some workplaces, they do understand. But in most cases, there's still just a lot of work to do.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the fact that you also work with job seekers.
Yes.
I feel like we focus a lot on the mental,
Professionals.
the mental health or anything wellness related to professionals, but no one ever focuses on job seekers.
True.
So what is the work you do with job seekers?
So with job seekers, what we do overall, I'm part of an organization called Job Seekers Venting Forum. So now the idea initially was to create a safe space.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm all about that. So the founder wanted to have a place where people could just come in and vent and really talk about the emotional stress.
Nice.
And the emotional, I'd say, the burden behind constantly, seeking for a job. Being unemployed, it means there's no income at the end. That's stressful. That's a lot.
Yeah.
There's anxiety to it. There's depression. There's a lot. So she wanted to create that. So then we joined her in her venture, and what it's been like, apart from then giving out, obviously, the typical, I'd say, technical advice in terms of, all right, look, tailor your CV, do this, do that.
Yeah.
The work that I then do in particular is we give mental health sessions to these people. We ask, how are you really? How has your day been? You understand? What are you struggling with? Are you giving yourself time out to, from constantly waking up in the morning to those rejection emails are a lot.
Yeah.
And some people have been unemployed for 6 months to a year, 3 years, 4, 5 years. And it's sad. It's sad to have a person come into this group and feel like I didn't have anywhere else to go. So this is basically where I thought perhaps, because I noticed that you guys do give mental health sessions, so we give them on a one-on-one level. People are able to reach out to me, and we talk about what is really going on, what's those deep emotional burdens, for men, for example, if you're a man, you're the provider, you are unemployed. Where do you go to? Who do you talk to? So it's spaces like that where you're able to come and talk, even the mothers that are dealing with so many things, single moms, she's unemployed. It's a lot. So that's what we do. That's what, and then often we have sessions where I will then create, it will depend on the topic. We cover anxiety, we cover burnout, we cover depression, because I've also come to realize people don't really know the difference in these things. We think stress, we think depression, we think that's
Yeah.
mental health.
Okay.
I mean, well, what mental health?
Yes.
We think that.
Yeah.
So it's you realize that you need to really educate people quite a lot. So I also use that space to educate.
And you touched on men, and that's another area we hardly focus on. How has the reception been with men?
Look, they're still not talking.
Okay.
They're still not talking because I think with
And
men.
sorry, is it, I suppose, is it mainly female who are doing the sessions, or is it a mix of male and female?
It's mainly females. It's mainly
Okay.
females. We do have. We're a team of 4 people.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a guy amongst us. However, the guys that are in the group aren't as vocal.
Okay.
Because remember now, I'm not able to see these people. This is something that we do virtually, right?
Okay.
Mostly.
Okay.
So now we'll encourage them to talk, and you can't really push, But what I then love in the moment is that look, they're present.
Yeah.
We introduced the topic for the day, maybe throughout the day on different social platforms, so they knew that tonight I'm creating a safe space for them to come in, right, and to talk. So they might not necessarily be vocal in the moment, but I think the fact that they come in and join the session is already a step forward.
Yes.
You understand?
Absolutely.
It's already them trying, so it's just them trying to meet me halfway while I also try to, let them know that, look, we are here. So yeah, with men, it's still a bit tricky, but we're making progress. They're joining these sessions. They're joining these WhatsApp groups that are really mostly dominated by women, but they come in as well. They come in, and yeah, you can hear that they have something to say, but they're still a bit, like, hey, I'm a man. But we'll get there.
Yes.
We'll get there.
No, 100%. I think as long as there's a platform, people will come, and as they come, they can refer to a friend, and hopefully we'll reach more men.
Right. Yeah, we need to just start somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. And with differentiating between stress, depression, and burnout, how would you differentiate the three? Because sometimes, I mean, I have a cousin who'll just post, I'm depressed.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, girl, are you really depressed?
Are you really depressed?
Yeah. So how can I assess myself and say, okay, now I'm really stressed, or I'm burnt out, or I'm depressed? How do I differentiate between the three?
Okay, remember with stress is a part of life. Stress is a part of life, and it's something we're going to go through in different stages, different phases of our lives. So there's what we refer to sometimes as, perhaps I'd say, good stress,
Okay.
But stress is more about external factors that we find ourselves amongst, I'd say.
Okay.
For example, let's say you've got a deadline at work, right? Of course you're going to be stressed. That's bound to cause you stress, you know. If you're dealing with acute stress, for example, would be loss of a loved one. That would be more acute because it's in the moment, it happens now, you understand, and it's, to the point, and you feel it in every way possible. So hence I'm saying there's so many things, man, that I can make an example of to say, okay, anything that's external, anything that's causing you distress and discomfort, those would be what we refer to as stress, right? And then now what happens is that now once the stress is not dealt with, once we're not dealing with it, especially initially, like as we experience it, then now we go into burnout. Now we're talking about the workplace, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's chronic stress, which now leads to the burnout. Okay. So now when you're burnt out, now that's something different as well, because you could be burnt out emotionally, you could be burnt out physically, you could be burnt out spiritually. There's also different aspects to it. Hence, I said earlier that mental health and mental wellness is just so broad. And we often think of the one thing, I'm depressed or I'm stressed. But it's different ways and different, And with stress also, physiologically, we're going to feel, I'd say, how would I put it? You release a hormone called cortisol, right?
Yes.
When this happens. So when that happens, then your body reacts. So once your body reacts, you find that in that moment you're not eating right. You find that in that moment you're not really sleeping. Now you've got a bit of anxiety, your hair is falling out, there's all these things, right? So now that's where I'd say it's the bad stress. Yes. And then sometimes you've you've got a wedding coming up. I mean, that's exciting, but you're bound to still be stressed, you know. So
Yes,
that's not so
absolutely.
bad. The stress is actually just meant to just get you going.
Yes.
You understand? So yeah, it's not so bad. And then now, once now you've realized that okay, there's stress, and then now it leads you to burnout. Now you start having anxiety, of course, and now this anxiety also, now you see it's 3 stages now. It's like I said, stress, burnout. Now you into anxiety. Anxiety now as well. It's got its own things. You
Yes.
see, it's got its own things with anxiety. Now you're also feeling it in your body mostly. You know, you're not breathing well. Your chest is tight. You know, you're overthinking and even overworking yourself. It's a form of trying to cope with anxiety. We don't realize that you're anxious in that moment.
Sure.
And then from there, now, if you're not dealing with any of this, because now remember, this is still at a point where you can sort of maybe still try to reach out to somebody, scream out, like, look, I need help.
Yeah.
You understand, with all three. And now finally, if you're not dealing with any of them on any other level, now you go into depression, which is now, I'd say, where we now get clinical about it.
Okay.
Where we now say, define it as a sort of illness, you understand, where you now get in your professionals and it's now serious, you know. So it's always best to try and avoid all these things and start right there in the moment where you feel like, okay, look, am I stressed? Am I anxious? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, so we need to also now know how to recognize
Yes.
these signs and differentiate what it is that's wrong. You know, so there's just so much to say about all of this, yes.
Yeah.
And it's important to know what the difference is, especially so that we avoid depression.
Yeah. So does burnout come before depression? I don't go straight from stress to depression and then burnout. Does the order always stay the same?
No,
or
not really. Not
okay.
really. Because remember, I could be stressed, right?
Yeah.
I could be stressed and find a solution to it, and then I'm all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, you know, have another moment in life where something else is stressing me, and we're all right. Okay. So in terms of the workspace, that's why I was giving you those tips, because now we were trying to focus more on the workspace. Yes. In terms of the workspace, it starts off as stress, right? You stressed about, you know, the deadlines. Now you also not setting boundaries. Now you when you want to have that badge of honor, I'm a hard worker. You know, you're doing all of that. And so all of that is a lot, you know. So now you stress, and then from stress, now you're burnt out now. Now you reach burnout stage, and now you're not really coping at work. And now you start being anxious about, am I not performing what's happening? You know, now that now leads you, you know, takes you to anxiety. Now, for some people, now you start taking anxiety medication. There's just a lot going on, and not just in your workspace, when you get home too, right?
Yes.
You see. And then now, if you're not dealing with all of that, then eventually we go into depression, because it's not just the workspace. There's other factors in your life. Because remember, wellness is, it's broad as well. Your mental wellness, your financial wellness, you know, your emotional wellness, spiritual wellness. There's a lot. Social wellness. So once you're not taking care of even just one part, then you could easily go into depression. So yes, hence I said, with depression, it kind of seems like there's been so many other steps.
Okay.
Then we got there.
There. We didn't have measures in place to prevent ourselves from getting there.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things you'd advise professionals to have in place to prevent them from maybe even just getting to burnout and then eventually depression, just to deal and manage that stress before it gets into something more serious?
I'd say, as we mentioned earlier when we first started conversating, it's the small thing, right?
Yeah.
I was having a conversation earlier today where we were talking about the fact that when you're dealing with ways to handle depression, or ways to handle anxiety, burnout, and stress, we often look at, okay, look, you need to meditate, you need to breathe. But really, is Madlamini or some mang in the village really
Gonna breathe.
Breathe in, breathe out. And then here you are saying to this person, I know you must have a journal. Like, honestly, you understand.
Absolutely.
However, those are still your typical coping mechanisms, right? But they I feel like they don't reach everyone. So sorry, I just went off.
No, it's okay.
Went off a little bit, because I was just thinking of the conversation we had earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, but look, your typical coping strategies and coping mechanisms would obviously be, as a professional, set boundaries. Okay. Set boundaries at work.
Yes.
Say yes, but have a but.
Ooh,
Yes, I can
yes.
see you breathing there.
Just on the boundaries, it's such a difficult thing, especially when you are new, like you just graduated from varsity. This
Yes.
is your first job. You're
Yes.
eager to prove yourself.
Yeah.
It is so difficult to tell
It's
your manager.
it's that badge of honor
No.
that I said. Yes, Hor, and now you
Absolutely.
want to also be seen like that, and also the managers, the supervisors, people that are meant to, or rather the people that we want to impress, I'd say
Yes.
they also create that, and then there's that expectation, both ways, you
Yeah.
understand. And as you said, you knew you step into this workplace and the only thing you want to do is impress. And honestly, it becomes too much because now you're not setting your boundaries, So like I said, say yes, but have a but, right? And again, at the same time, be realistic. Be
Yeah.
realistic. Check your capacity. Am I really going to be able to handle all of this?
Yeah.
Will I manage, right?
Yeah.
And then when you have your breaks, make sure that your breaks are part of your schedule.
Okay.
Honestly, like as you have your calendar, when you start your day, put your breaks in so that now it's something that you do. In that moment, you realize, okay, it's 10:15. I said it this time. I'm gonna take a break. Do that.
That's a
Right?
good one,
Yeah,
actually.
do it. Yeah, do
because
that.
we make a mental
Yeah,
note.
you make a mental note
but
and
then you
right?
get lost in the work.
Exactly. Now it's now the day's over. You haven't even really had time to
Yeah.
yourself. Sometimes you don't even have lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a busy work day. So you try to do that and then have moments where you just step out, I like having small affirmations, like,
Okay.
have little affirmations with yourself. Yes, here and there, if you feel like the stress is really quite a lot, make sure that maybe you've got an app that you can go to, practice breathing exercises, a bit of mindful meditation. There are those recordings that last about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Those guided meditations. It's not so bad.
Yes.
You can just step out, maybe step into the bathroom, go to smoking area, whatever. Just step out, take a break. You understand?
Yeah.
Just so that you have time for you.
Yeah.
Again, just even if it's just 5 minutes. So it's
Okay.
those little things. But as I said now, poor Madlamini doesn't understand you.
Yes. What do we say to her?
But that's where the problem is in this moment. I think like there's a big gap now, and
Okay.
and we need to cater for people that don't quite understand, because
Yeah.
honestly, mental health is still seen as a luxury. It's still seen as something that's fancy. You think mental health and you think, oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna go to the spa, like I said. You think, all right, I need a girl's night out.
Yeah.
I need a cute little this and that,
Yeah.
and all of that is money. Remember, we're not all privileged
Yeah.
to be able to tap out like that. So where does that village mom go to when she's feeling like, So as much as I said, Hore, the nice thing with public health, we go into communities as well, right? We provide the psychosocial support. But for someone who's feeling exhausted, it's very difficult for her to just come in. Maybe we're at a center to just talk.
Yes.
Because sometimes people think mental health should be something tangible.
Yeah.
If I'm just saying, okay, here's the space we can talk, like she feels like, but now this is not enough. I mean, at the end of the day, I can still go talk to my friend. I don't now need to now take time to come here.
Yes.
You understand? So there's still a
Yes.
lot that we need to do for people that aren't necessarily going to be able to have time to buy into skincare routine.
Yes.
People that are not going to have time to maybe buy a scented candle, and now the room
Or
is
even
smelling.
afford therapy.
Yeah, and just I know even
Yes.
afford your basic therapy. So there's still
Yes.
quite a huge gap there. And it's something I think we as mental health professionals, mental health advocates, we need to look into that. There's a gap there, I've come to realize, because we really are still far from understanding how to really assist
Yeah.
your person that doesn't really have that financial, that financial support or that
Yes.
financial security.
Yes.
So there's still a long way to go.
I'd like us to talk about rest and how that plays into your mental well-being. We live in a world where we are working. We obviously want the money. We want to be successful. And sometimes we feel guilty for resting. We feel unproductive when we're resting. How does rest affect our mental, or the lack of rest affect our mental health?
Oh, apart from the physiological effect, which I'd say, of course, you feel.
Yeah.
You feel drained. You feel exhausted.
Mm.
It affects it quite greatly. I mean, when you're not rested, you're not focused.
Yeah.
You're not coping. Nothing that you do for the day is really proper. You
Yes.
understand? Yeah, you struggle a lot with that. So it affects it in a huge way. And I do understand when you say that people often don't what's the word? They feel guilty.
Yes.
Yes, they feel guilty, like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have, But then again, at the same time, you really of no good use when you yourself are tired. You remember, you can't pour from an empty cup, whether it's you pouring into your social circles, your family, or just at work. You understand? Let me make an example with resources at work, right? The resources at work, when you run out, you go and you get more, right?
Yeah.
Supplier comes in and they bring more.
Yes.
So you're a resource as well at work. You're just a human resource. So you now need to take the responsibility to say, listen, I'm depleted. I need to refill my cup in this workspace. You understand? So it's important to rest. You understand? And rest that doesn't always mean necessarily going to sleep. Of course, napping is a form of doing it. But you can also have, I'd say, a mental break where you just, relaxing, you're in nature, you're trying to breathe. You understand? So we need to understand that there's just so many different ways. And also, most importantly, you need to understand just how important it is to just allow yourself to just sleep, Because even when you do sleep, you have different stages of sleep, from just being in that moment where you're just sleeping and you can sort of maybe still hear your background, all the way to REM, you understand?
Okay.
Versus now where you're in rapid eye movement sleep. When you're in that state, that's now where your mind, your body, and everything is just, rejuvenating, and, you're refreshing, and all of these cycles are supposed to have certain amount of minutes allocated to it. Hence the 8 hours, hence we recommend 7 to 8 hours. So it's quite important just to revitalize, you understand?
Yeah.
But now that sleep, hence I said, resting comes in different forms. There's just so many. So we mentioned sleep. We mentioned sleep obviously is your 8 hours. We mentioned just napping. We mentioned the mental tapping out, putting your screens away, just that, because we in that world, social media, there's that lights in
It's
everything.
the last thing I'm on
Right,
before I sleep.
right.
It's the first thing
you wake up
when I wake up.
you wake up
Yes.
midnight, and you can't sleep. You want to watch a series. You want to maybe do something, and that interrupts. That's now sensory. Yeah, it's more sensory. So now that's where we'd say you need a sensory break. Don't overstimulate yourself.
Yes.
If you wake up midnight, rather, I'd say have a glass of warm water, because that's also something something therapeutic. You can do something warm, but leave your screens alone.
Okay.
You understand? Rest. Allow your body, because eventually, because biologically we're in that state where we need to now sleep. Eventually you'll fall back to sleep. You understand? You'll go back to sleep easily. So those little breaks are needed. We do feel guilty, but you have to tap into it.
Yeah.
And you have to make it something that's important to you. Like I don't know. If you're feeling it, I mean, you can feel, I need. Yeah, so listen to your body. That's the nice thing about our bodies. They tell us something's wrong. Yeah, so listen to your body. Rest.
Okay.
Rest. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Lastly, I'd like to ask, is there anything else you would like to share, any advice you'd like to share with our professionals from a mental wellness point of view?
Like I said in the beginning, set boundaries. Set boundaries more than anything. And remember that the responsibility of taking time out or of taking care of your mental well-being is really on you. Before it's even an organizational situation now where your manager now needs to provide the space for you, or maybe give you time out. Right? Remember, it's on you. And also, don't make mental wellness or your mental well-being as a whole a project. You understand? Understand that it's part of your everyday. From the moment you wake up, you understand? What are you telling yourself? What are you feeding your brain? You understand? Because whatever it is that you feed yourself, that you feed your brain, that you feed your mind, is exactly what you're going to produce,
Yeah.
And be able to realize that once you start feeling a bit negative towards work, you're cynical, and you're you're not as motivated, realize that something is wrong.
Yeah.
Don't wait for that moment where now you're being absent and you're thinking, okay, look, absenteeism means something is wrong, but if I'm present, then no, you could still be very present at work, but you're not there.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. Or rather, I'd say physically there, but you're not present. Yes, let me put it like that.
Yes.
You understand? So learn to recognize those things, but more than anything, understand that mental health is not something that you're going to look at through therapy within 2 to 3 months, or maybe you took that vacation. Of course, take your breaks, but you took that vacation, you think all is well now.
Yeah.
No. It's literally what you feed in your mind from the moment you wake up, how you're dealing with stress, how you're dealing with being overwhelmed, anxiety, those little things, what you're telling yourself, the positive mindset. You understand?
Yeah.
That is something that we have to practice every day.
Okay.
What are you listening to while you drive to work? You
Yeah.
understand? What are you feeding yourself? That is important. So that's what I would like to say to professionals, that look into those small things. Of course, by all means, if you've got the means and the money to do all these fancy things that are related to mental health and wellness, all these cutie things we see on your social medias,
Yes.
for sure, go for it. But still things that really make a difference. And as somebody who's spiritual, I'd also say take care of that side too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
If you're a God-fearing person, do that. Pray, invite God. If you're somebody that believes in other things, do what you need to do to feed your soul.
Yes.
Yes, so it's important. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's what I'd like to say. And that's where I'd like to end off. Yeah.
And just last,
Mm-hmm.
to job seekers,
Mm.
what would you say to them? I mean, I can imagine how tough it is. I've been in a situation where I'm looking for a new job, and it would take 10 months, 8 months to find it, but at least I still have a job, right? So I cannot imagine how it is for someone who's been 6 years unemployed.
Sure.
So what would you say, just to give them the strength to continue going?
I think I don't know why I got a bit emotional as you say to job seekers, but because I deal with these people every day. And I think the first thing I'd like to say is, I'm sorry that you're going through that.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and but it's important. It's important to stay resilient, to keep a positive mindset. And resilience doesn't mean when you are in Bogoto, everything is fine. No, resilience just means that there was an obstacle or there was a tough situation and you pulled through. You pulled through, you found ways to deal with it and you pulled through and you kept pushing anyway. You understand? Yeah. So you still need to find solutions. It doesn't necessarily mean just hang in there and you're bleeding. No, so just stay resilient. Sure. Your turn is coming. Your yes will come. I say this to these people every day, and it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to admit that I'm overwhelmed, that the stress of not having an income is a lot. It's okay to be honest about those kind of things. You understand? But have spaces where you tap into, where you know that you're not alone. Find a community. You understand? Find I always say to them, volunteer, because when you volunteer, then you're out there. Firstly, you change in the environment completely by leaving home. You're leaving home and you're just going out there. And now you amongst other people from different professions as well. You're sharing your story, so put yourself out there, but just hang in there, hang in there. It's a lot. It's a lot. And when it is a lot, put everything away, tune in to yourself, your senses, your soul, deal with that. You understand? Hence I said, for me, it's quite important when I know that it's a lot now to just switch everything off.
Yes.
Yeah, switch everything off my mind. Even my kids, they know that mommy has to now rest. Yeah, because now I'm not present fully. You understand? If I'm not resting, so yeah, just hang in there, and it's gonna get better. But most importantly, it is okay not to be okay. Take time out, and then get back to it.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And where can people reach you if they'd like to reach out, ask about the work you do?
For now, it's still your typical social platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, I am slowly also growing my following on LinkedIn, because it's a more professional,
Yes.
space, and then and on other platforms, still we can, like they can reach me there, but mainly it's that, and then through my emails, and then obviously through the Job Seekers Venting Forum.
Okay.
Because I'm their main mental health advocate. So usually when people want to reach me, they go there. Yeah, apart from your LinkedIn. Yeah, so for now it's still that.
Okay.
Yes, until
and what's the name on LinkedIn for Job Seekers
Forum?
Forum?
Job Seekers Venting Forum, literally that, JVF. Yeah.
And that's where they can find it.
That's
also
where
on
they
LinkedIn.
can find more of me and what I do.
Yes.
And then of course my page is also there in terms of community work that I do, all those other things, because hey, I'm a girl of many,
Yes,
many things.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you so much,
it's a
Monia.
pleasure.
It was so nice having you here.
I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it.
Okay, just to say thank you for taking your time out to come speak to our customers, our followers. We created a self-care box for you so that you can also, on stressful days, you can come back from work and just relax and unwind.
Thank you so much.
And light that scented candle.
Right?
Here you go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's
Thank you. Absolute honor being here.
Thank you
so much. Yeah.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure that you subscribe and comment. Let us know about your experiences taking care of your mental health, or even if it's you struggling with setting boundaries at work. Also like our video and share with other professionals who could benefit from this conversation. I will see you on the next video. Thank you.